Welcome
good
everyone. My name is Ajay and I'm one of the founding team members at Crio. And I want to welcome you all to this webinar here today, right?
Yes,
Thank you very much for coming here. And I know you're all curious to learn about our upcoming program. We'll talk about it and we'll discuss how to get started with your development journey. Okay, so in the meantime, let's use the Zoom group chat. Okay, I'll ask you a few questions, and then we can take it forward from there. So first of all, which cities are you from? You want to tell me where in India, or like where are you from? You guys want to use the?
Hi, this is Rajiv.
Yeah, hi Rajiv.
Yeah, I'm from Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Okay, so there's Sufia
hello.
from Rourkela. Yeah, go ahead. Who's this?
Hello, sir. Yuraj Karim. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, Yuvraj.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, I am from Chhattisgarh, sir.
Chhattisgarh. Okay.
Okay.
The land of the 36
Yes,
forts.
sir.
Right? Chhattisgarh. Anyway, so Dhanbad.
Yes, sir.
Agni Bhattacharya from Dhanbad. And guys, can you please mute yourselves after you've spoken? That way, we don't want to give everybody a chance to speak. So this Priyanjali Bakshi from West Bengal, Asansol. Great. Okay, perfect. What kind of roles are you in? I'm guessing most of you are working professionals. Any students on the call? Students?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there is a student. Can you introduce yourself? Okay, so there's Agni Bhattacharya and Sufyan is an engineering student. Okay, great. Final year. Perfect. Okay, Priyanjali is a working professional, and
Hi, this is Rajiv, working professional.
Rajiv is a working professional. Great, Rajiv. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. So it's a good mix. I asked that way. Yeah, so I know how to customize the content for all of you. How many? So most of you in your final year. If you're a student, most of you in final year, and if you're a working professional, can you tell us, how many years of work experience you have?
I have 1 year in process executive.
Right. 1 year. I'm guessing that's Rajiv. Okay, great. Student into my third year. That's Karthik Sama. Karthik Sama. Samir, there's Samir Kumar. And Samir, you should send your chats to everybody in the group. Otherwise, only I see it, right? So Samir, who's from Noida and has 2.5 years of experience. A third year student. Priyanjali has 2+ years of experience. Okay, great. So for the working professionals on the call, what kind of industries are you in? Are you in, what kind of role do you have? Is it a development role, a testing, QA, or, this SDET or any other field?
Process executive.
Okay.
I think you know that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What's that again?
Yeah, process executive. Process executive. Yeah.
What, you mean like sprint manager, things like that?
No. But it is in mapping. I'm a process executive. I think you know the Apple mapping, right?
Yes.
Yeah, currently I'm working in Infosys.
Okay, great.
Client is, so that's why.
Okay. All right, folks. Thank you very much. It gives me a good idea. I think we've given enough time for all the others to join. So let's get started. Before I begin, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone. That way, I will unmute you again. This presentation will take about 30 minutes. I'll try to wrap it up within 30 to 40 minutes. And then we'll have plenty of time for all your questions. Okay, so please, and if you have anything in between, you can use the chat, Zoom. There's a Zoom group chat. So you can use that chat, send me messages, and then I'll try to address them as and when they come in. Okay, great. So formally, a warm welcome to Crio to all of you. Right, exciting to have you all here. The backend developer track that we're going to talk about. And for those of you who joined late, my name is Ajay. I'm one of the founding team members at Crio. I've experience in quite a few startups in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, been part of a few acquisitions as well, part of Ironport Systems, which was acquired by Cisco. And then I worked at another startup called Nest, which was acquired by Google. Okay, so I've been at Google for a couple of years, like 5-6 years, and then returned to India and got together with a few friends, and we thought of starting Crio. So that's a short introduction to myself, right? So we're going to talk about our backend developer track, and Crio is a vision that we've had for a while. Okay, we're very passionate about education and skill building, right? And the founding team of Crio comes from some of the top startups in the country, including Flipkart, there's Motorola, D. Shaw, right? All these companies and startups. And I say Flipkart startup because the founding team, one of the founders, Ratna, like he comes from a very early Flipkart, like 2009, and when they were just starting, initial set of teams. He quit when he was a senior director. The other co-founder, Sridhar, seen at companies like VMware and Google. Plenty of development experience, building products used by millions of users, right? And we built Crio to, shape the next set of talent and bring it up in India right here, right? So that's our goal, to create top-class, world-class developers right here in India. You guys can go ahead and build some of the best products from India, but for the world, right? So that's the kind of vision we have here at Crio. So I'm sure you guys are all excited about all the wonderful products that are being built today, right? And you use some of these every day, like there's WhatsApp, Facebook, Uber, Ola, Paytm, Swiggy, plenty of these applications that have come to define what technology companies are today, right? You get excited. These are great products. They serve a very meaningful purpose, and they add value to millions of users across the world, right? Some of them in the billions, actually. And then you're all engineers. You are curious about, okay, this is a great app. How is it built? What's underneath? What's going on inside on the internals of these apps, right? So these are things you get curious about. So let's peel the layers a little bit, okay, and try to understand how these apps actually function, what is their architecture, and get a better insight of how all these apps that you're getting excited about and you use every day, how are they getting built, right? Let's take Flipkart, okay, and here is a brief overview, and like a structure that tends to be pretty common across many of the most popular applications, okay? So you have microservices. I know it's a new term, okay? Think about them as applications running on their own machines and doing one specific thing. An example of a microservice is inventory management in Flipkart. Like how you see all these products on Flipkart when you go there, what quantity, what are the different products, how much quantity is available, near which warehouse can I actually deliver to a particular location. So basically all the inventory available across the geography, okay, of Flipkart. You need some application to just manage all of that, right? So the inventory microservice or application can be accessed using a REST API, okay? And for those of you who are not familiar with REST API, it's basically an interface through which you can access these applications over the internet, right? So one machine can talk to another machine and then using a REST API interface and get some valuable information in return. In the inventory microservice, it's actually a list of inventory details, okay? Now, the application is returning a list of inventory available, but where is the inventory actually stored? Probably a database. Okay, it's an inventory database. So the inventory microservice reads and writes, reads from the inventory database, writes to it when products are sold, and adds to them when products are, purchased again and stock is back, right? And basically, this is just one service, one specific application within a very large company, right? Or large product called Flipkart. There are others like accounting, how orders are made, was the payment made, refunds, discounts, accounting, right? And then there's shipping. A package has been picked up, dropped off. Shipper has been notified, returns, all of that. Shipping. And then there's the store microservice where you can actually go and take a look at all the products in the store, right? Any offers that are being run on Flipkart, all those things, and pricing, many things there, right? So, every large application has a bunch of microservices. These microservices can be accessed using REST APIs, and they talk to a backend database in order to access, persistent data. I'll take another example, like Ola, right? You guys are ordering cabs or autos on Ola. Very similar. What used to be an inventory microservice there, it transforms into a passenger management microservice. Drivers, managing where the drivers are, location, as well as trips, ongoing trips, past trips, cost of the trip, any discounts applied, refunds, all of those things, right? So these are applications that are handling these things, and then there's a database adapter, which actually talks to the underlying database, right? Similar architectures everywhere, right? So you can come up with a generic architecture for some of the products that you're very excited about and that you use every day, right? So there are microservices. These microservices are accessed through an API gateway, okay? If you go to api.flipkart.com, from there you can go to the accounting microservice or the inventory microservice, right? It's like a common interface, and at the gateway you do things like logging in, authentication. You have the right permissions to access the relevant microservices. So there's an identity provider. It could be within the Flipkart context. It could be outside in the Flipkart example, but you get the idea. And then there's some service discovery and management. Basically, these are at the bottom, what you see, right? Services go down, like the inventory service is down. How do you know? Well, you have service discovery, which is constantly polling, and the service management, which actually goes and makes sure the service is always running. Okay, these are all DevOps, right? And then there's static content and CDNs that are actually distributing videos and images and things like that. Like product images, they never change, right? Or images with descriptions of products never change. So you take all the static content and give it to a content distribution network, right? Which is what services like Netflix will do, for instance. Do the movies change? No. So is it better for Netflix to have copies of movies that are closer to your location, like have a South India data center to do some content distribution there, another presence in North India, West, East, and then across the globe as well. That way they can minimize the amount of data that has to travel long distances, right? So that's a content distribution network. So this is like an architecture of a web application, right? And how do you get to build these kind of products? What kind of engineers are there in these companies, like in a Netflix or a Flipkart, right? Who are these people and what skills do they have, and how do they come together to build such large successful applications, right? One hint is to take a look at the job descriptions. There's PayPal, Amazon, Blackbuck. Just look at them, okay? And I'd encourage you to go and do this yourself, okay? After the call today, go and look at what PayPal is looking for, what skills. You all think, okay, these are modern applications. Like Amazon is a modern web application. And there are others, like Paytm, Uber, Ola, Grofers, Myntra, Flipkart. go to their job descriptions. These modern applications, what technologies are they actually using, right? Paytm, for example, proficiency in Spring, Hibernate, which are all Spring, which is basically a Java web framework, right? They're looking for core J2E and core Java skills. Then there's Uber building large-scale distributed systems, looking for things like, people with a GitHub account with great projects, or Ola looking for core Java skills, Grofers, large-scale distributed systems, and familiarity with Java or Python, C++. RESTful services, RDBMS, databases, all these things. You're thinking, okay, Python is the future, or Node.js, and there are these wonderful companies building amazing products using things like Java, right? So it's actually a good exercise. Go and please go and do this, okay? So look at your favorite company, check the job descriptions. How can you acquire these skills? Okay, how many of you want to work at Google or Paytm or Flipkart? Raise your hands. I've been there. It's a great experience, okay, to be in these companies. But how do you acquire the skills that it takes to get into these companies and work on these products, okay? And how do you acquire them as well, right? So this is you, and this is a lot of people I know actually. They think they can read a book or a tutorial or watch a few videos and learn how to build web applications, large-scale distributed web applications. It's a lot like, that boy standing there that you see with a book in his hand. He wants to learn how to swim, but he's actually reading a book to do it. How many of you have learned swimming by reading a book? Any answers? Okay, great. I think I know what the answers will be. But what's the best way to learn how to swim? Yeah? It's actually diving into the pool, right? The coach is there, pushes you in the water, you're wet, you're gasping for breath, you struggle, and then you get up to the surface, take your first breath, and then slowly start kicking your feet, and then you feel comfortable, then you start using your hands, and then eventually you become a good swimmer, and then, long distance swimming marathons, all those things, right? That is the way to do it. Then what is the best way to learn to build products, right? Why not by just building them, right? Just try and build, and whatever you need to learn is like swimming. You don't know how to swim. You jumped in and then you figure it out, right? Get the right help, right? So imagine if each of you gets an opportunity, to work in some of these top-notch companies and pick up these amazing skills to build products that are used by millions of people across the world, right? Imagine the kind of learnings you would have. Imagine the career graph that you would have, right? Independent problem-solving skills, learning in context, right? So when you've just jumped into the pool and you want to learn swimming, you're not going to focus on raise your hand at an angle and get all the fingers together and clutch them together and then push the water as, no, you're just learning to breathe, right? So contextual learning, first learn how to breathe, blah, 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 right? So similarly, first learn the basics, get something working, right? Get used to the technology and the tools used by some of the amazing engineers working in these companies, right? What if you could get a similar learning opportunity, right? And that's the premise of Crio. And that's what we enable. We create these projects, real world projects, similar to the ones that developers and top-notch companies are working on today, right? But with a focus on learning, right? So it's not just building these large applications. It seems very intimidating. Oh my God, Uber or Ola has thousands of engineers, and am I going to build those products all by myself? No, go step by step, pick up a few things along the way. We call them micro-experiences, okay? So you take the avatar of a developer in a company, right? And then you go through their learning journey. even they started where you started, right? As freshers or working professionals with 1 to 2 years, 3 years of work experience, switching to a different company, starting a new project. You don't know anything about it, but still you get around, right? And after a few years, you feel very confident. I've gained all those skills. And those are the ones you put on your resume, right? How many of you are proud of all the college courses you took versus the internship experience or the work experience you have? Which one is more valuable and more relevant, right? So that's what we're getting at. And that's what we focus on in Crio. Here are some examples. We call them micro experiences because, it's very work-like, right? And you're learning in a work-like context. And when it's a work-like context, it's a real-world problem. You relate to it, like QRide. QRide is just like Uber, and we have built this. Okay, we have built like an Uber-like application. We install it on your phone, and the backend is not working because you have to implement the backend from scratch. The app makes a request to the backend and does not get a response. You start by debugging. You understand how to build a backend application from scratch, and then you implement some of those features. A little bit of the app starts working. Continue with more and more features until the app is fully functional. And along the way, you actually learn how to build a backend, a scalable, distributed backend, and then enhance its performance and do some really interesting things to make it very efficient, right? So you learn in context, right? QBox is an example, QEats is an example. QBox is a file sharing application. QEats is just like Swiggy, right? So different skill sets, different micro experiences, all under the Crio umbrella. Okay, so that's what we offer. Give you an example, right? I talked about QEats and I said it's just like Swiggy, right? So here's an example. This is exactly what some of our learners have done. I'll go ahead and play the video and then I'll give you a commentary, right? So what would you do in Swiggy? Let's see. There is no audio, okay? So if you're wondering where the audio is, I'm going to be talking over it. Start from the beginning. So you see QEats, log in, you get a list of restaurants near your location. You can browse, select your favorite restaurant, right? And then pick the items that you want. Okay, change the order quantity, add more, check out, make a payment, and your order is done, right? Once the order is done, you can actually you can search for specific products, like, items, menu items, like I want biryani, and what are the nearby restaurants that serve biryani, right? So this is QEats, and this is exactly the kind of stuff that you will build as part of a Crio Micro experience. Just to give you some context, the app we give you, the backend is not built, not 100% built. Some stub code is available because, see, this is a learning phase. And when you join a company and you're actually learning, you go through it step by step, right? First, you install the app that the company has built, and then they tell you this feature is not working, or we want some enhancements here. So you first read the existing source code, understand how the code is structured, and then learn any basics you want. Like, I don't know Spring, I don't know how to build a backend. No problem, right? So there's an initial learning phase where you go and learn about what Spring Boot is and how you can build these backends using Java, which is used in Swiggy, by the way. And once you know Spring Boot, the different layers in an MVC, like a model view controller architecture, you pick it up and then you go and implement it. And that's exactly how our learners have actually implemented it in the QEats micro experience. And you saw a demo of that just now, right? So I'll give you a quick platform demo as well. Where are our learners actually building these things, right? So this is what a micro experience looks like, okay? We know building the backend of something like Swiggy is pretty complicated, right? But then we break it down into small steps. Look at these modules, okay? We call it a structured execution plan, right? You're a developer in Swiggy and you have to, like QEats, you have to build the backend, right? Module 1, very simple. It's just getting started with serialization, okay? Every module starts with an overview where, you go through, okay, what am I going to do in this module? An introduction, okay? What is my objective? I'm going to support different front-end clients. what is the focus area and where does it fit into the larger architecture? Okay, this is the system boundary. This is where the REST API endpoint actually terminates a request or receives a request from a mobile phone. It could be a browser also, a web browser, right? And that's where this module is focused on. Great. What background knowledge do I need, right? So a brief introduction to the background skills. And then the primary goals. You're going to use JSON. Requests are coming in using JSON. You have to search for a list of restaurants close to a user's location and return a list of restaurants, right? All in JSON format. And you can do that using a Jackson library. Okay, so that's the overview. Great. So you have the overview. How do you get started, right? So first thing you do is, sorry about that. So first thing you do is we give you a workspace, okay, a Linux machine, where you will that you will use for all your development work. It's called a Crio workspace like this. Okay, I'll start it. It takes a few minutes. So this is a virtual machine running in the cloud, right? It's a Linux machine. You have to log in, and you can use it just like any other Linux machine, right? And that's where you'll be doing all your work. Notice that I'm in my browser, okay? You don't have to install any applications, nothing, right? How many of you have tried setting up a Linux machine? Not easy, right? It takes time and all the tool set and the tool chain. But here we've done all of that for you. So you can get started very quickly, okay? Okay, let this load. I'll come back to this later. So you go ahead. Setup instructions is where you get the source code from the company. Okay, remember you're a developer in a company, and first thing you do is see what code is already there, right? So you get the source code, and then you read it, find out step by step what you need to do. Okay, and there's some reference material. If you don't understand what's going on, you can go ahead and take a look. You get stuck. We also have hints. Okay, you can click on hints and you can actually go ahead and get some additional hints. Okay, it says, okay, here's what you need to do, right? So that way, finish a module, submit it for assessment. Just like a company where you write code, you submit it, it runs a series of integration test cases. Make sure you're not breaking any existing functionality, right? And after you're done, you get a debrief where you take a short quiz. You understand how things are going, all the key concepts, and then some summary where we'll discuss the solutions, some key concepts that you have learned in this module, alternative solutions, like different other approaches you could have taken. If you get stuck, we have FAQs that you can go and read, right? So it's amazing. Everything is right here for you. All you have to do is, focus on the learning some concepts and applying it as you write code. So here's, the workspace. I'll show you in just a second. Okay, so this is Visual Studio Code running in the browser, and you get a terminal like this. This is a Linux terminal. Okay, there you go, like Echo. Everything works. So you don't have to install anything, everything right in the browser, okay, which is great. And that's what the platform looks like, and that's how you will go ahead and work on QEats, one module after another. Just take a look at all the modules again. You'll implement a REST API endpoint, you'll fix unit tests, you plug in a database, MongoDB in this case, and then you'll add search support. You'll improve the performance using multi-threading as well as a Redis cache, all the good stuff, right? So step by step, you'll actually learn the skills, apply it right there, and that's how you learn very effectively on Crio. So who uses Crio? Seems pretty interesting, in theory, but is anyone using Crio for their learning needs? There you go. Okay, so every fresher engineer who joins, computer science engineer who joins Flipkart, Visa, Rakuten, all of them are going through Crio Micro-Experiences to be onboarded before the job. Okay, the new hire training, they all go through Crio Micro-Experiences actually. So engineers from the top, working in some of the top tech companies, are already using Crio for all their learning needs. And now we're excited to actually bring it to all of you. Okay, so you also have an access to the same kind of learning material and resources that people from the top tech companies have at their disposal. Okay. So I'll talk to you briefly about our backend developer track because that's what we're going to talk about today, right? We start with the basics, okay? Developer essentials, where we'll cover things like Linux, Git, HTTP, REST APIs, what they are, and in a very applied way. It's not theoretical. One thing I wanted to highlight from the Q Eats thing you saw here, did you find any videos? You know, tutorial like things? Not quite, right? You just get your hands dirty and you actually start coding and you get stuck. So very little like tutorial, theoretical stuff, it's not there. Okay, very hands-on applied learning. So developer essentials is what you pick up and you learn how to use a Linux machine the applied way, and also learn about Git, version control, you know, all the good things there. And this is very important. Like if you have a cloud server running on AWS or G Cloud, they give you access to a terminal. You don't get a GUI. Like your Windows machine, you can go double click on a folder. They don't give you that user interface. They're all a Linux terminal and you have to actually use a terminal to do all your work. So the developer essentials get you very comfortable with the Linux command line, teaches you how to pull source code with Git and other things, and also things like HTTP. How on a real computer you have a browser, right? But Linux terminals don't have a browser, so you have to use how do you make GET requests, HTTP requests from a command line. You learn all that stuff. Then there's Java essentials. Okay, we're going to focus on Java in this whole track, and you know exactly why. I showed you the job descriptions, and go take a look at it yourself. Some of the most, like Twitter, they use Java in their backend today, like Spring Boot applications. So very relevant and very much in demand. Okay, a lot of openings and opportunities to become a Java backend developer. So we'll focus on Java essentials, where we'll introduce you to Java syntax, and from there we'll take you on to writing some small programs in Java so that you can apply the syntax that you've learned. And we'll finish off with a nice, interesting project. Okay, that's called the build outs level 1. Okay, these build outs, and I'll get into the details of all of this. And the rest of the things, okay, and I have another slide which talks about all these details. But basically, this is the backend developer track. Get you familiar with Java, and then introduce you to the web backend development, which is Q Eats. It's about 160 hours of effort, okay? But you can spread this across up to 4 months, right? And I'll talk about that in more detail. What prerequisites do you need to have? Basic programming in any language. It could be Java itself, or it could be Python, C++, anything, okay? So if you have basic programming skills in any of these languages, then we can take you through Java, okay? Some more details, like I already talked about developer essentials. Now Java essentials, I talked about it, basic Java, classes and inheritance and annotations in Java. And once that's done, you build a small project, right? Then we take you to QMoney. And QMoney is to introduce you to professional Java development skills, okay? You learn about JSON and how to handle JSON. And all the web HTTP requests, JSON is a very, very popular data transfer type, right? So the payload that goes, like your username or the image that you want to retrieve, all of that data goes inside a JSON formatted object, right? REST APIs, JUnit, object-oriented programming and design. And this is a key outcome, actually. So you get very comfortable with good quality object-oriented design. And then, exception handling and other things in Java. And then you apply all of that in a build out. It's a project, it's an independent project. In QMoney, you get a lot of stubs existing code. In build outs, it's a fresh start. You build a project from scratch. There is no existing code, right? So it's a great way to check how much you've understood and apply. And if you've forgotten a few things, that's completely okay. So you can go back to QMoney, refer those things, come back and apply it again, right? And then it's QEats in the backend developer track. QEats is our signature micro experience, one of the most popular ones, where you build, where you learn to build a scalable and distributed web backend, right? Just like Flipkart's backend. This one is Swiggy's backend, right? So you're going to learn Spring Boot, which is a Java framework to build web applications, MongoDB, and then some Mockito to do effective unit testing, as well as scientific debugging skills. So if there are bugs in your code, we actually introduce some bugs on purpose. And your job is to actually figure out why is this bug occurring, and you go in a very methodical way. During the course of a usual software development project, bugs are very common. Okay, so you have to have very good debugging skills. And then Redis for caching and things like that, right? So and at the end of it, you get to do a final project, your capstone project, where you'll actually build a web application from scratch. Okay, 0 files, nothing. You start from the very first file. In fact, you start from even before the file, which is actually designing the web application all by yourself. The backend design, what REST API endpoint should I offer, right? What is the payload? What is the request going to look like and the response? All of those details you are going to do from scratch. So, it's a very, very thorough, very comprehensive learning program, but we start from the basics. Okay, so basic programming in any languages, I'll give you a thumb rule. If you can reverse a linked list, okay, or you can traverse through an array, right, then you're ready. In any language, could be Python, whatever, right? So those are good, thumb rules to take. So what's the schedule? If you take your time, 160 hours, you can pace yourself and finish it in up to 4 months, okay? But some of you might want to do it quicker. Maybe you can spend more time per week, okay? 4 months, if you do 10 hours per week, you can finish the curriculum in about 4 months. If you want to spend more time, like 15 hours, 20 hours a week, you can also finish it in up to 2 months itself, okay? But then it takes this much time, okay? It is a significant amount of learning, and you want to take your time to internalize everything. No need to rush, take it at your own pace. What do you get after you finish, right? First of all, and the most popular things that engineers and programmers really love, and my personal favorite, GitHub contributions. Okay, so if you go to GitHub, you'll see all these lovely green boxes showing that, okay, I made a commit on this particular day and I feel good about it, right? And this is a programmer's or a developer's bragging rights. I absolutely love it. You also get a Crio verified profile. So for all the modules that you've completed, you get a really nice technical description, as well as a very high level description of the features and functions you've actually implemented. And you can showcase this to your managers, your tech leads, your potential hiring managers or recruiters. They really love seeing a Crio portfolio, right? And the most popular request from users, will I get a certificate? Of course you do. You've worked hard for it. So you get a beautifully designed certificate. You're a Crio product developer, right? And that's what you get when you finish all the requirements of our track. 5 projects is what you'll build, okay? So you can add these 5 very good, it starts from the basics, but you've built it yourself. Think about something like tiny URL, okay? You give a long URL, you shorten it so that it can be shared on social media. Implementing this and actually getting your hands dirty. And then maybe a question answer kind of website, just like Quora or something like that, along with, of course, QMoney and QEats, all those things that I talked about. So you get 5 really solid projects. It'll add a lot of weight to your resume if you're looking for a new job, or if you're looking to change teams within your current job, or you're just curious about development and you want to understand more about it, then this is a great way to showcase the effort that you've put in. Okay. So here are some use cases based on our past students, okay, and how they've used the backend developer track. Many people working in DevOps or QA or automation roles, they've used the Crio backend developer track to transition to a development role. Okay. Some of them are like automation testers, or and they want to really understand and get a development perspective. That way they can do much better in their own job, right? So SDET or QA kind of roles, this can give you a very different perspective on how development happens. That way you can do your role much better. Okay. And third is transitioning from services-based companies into product-based companies, right? So that is also a pretty common use case. Of course, simply put, a better job. Very popular, and Crio's experience has really helped make this transition, right? Yeah, this is going to be my last slide, and then I'm hoping to take questions. This is the summary of the backend developer track. It's a paid program. A lot of you have questions. Is it free? Is it paid? It's actually a paid program. 20,000 rupees, but great value. Okay, the kind of learning that you get is probably going to be much better than your 4-year engineering degree. The investment that you make here will give you multiple returns many times over. I can guarantee that. It's going to be great for all of you. And you get as much from this program as you're willing to put in. You put in time, you put in effort, then you get that much more out of the program. So there's also a 1-week free trial, okay? So you don't have to pay anything to start. Just come, take the first week, and the first week is just for you to try, explore the platform, explore 1 week of curriculum, and see if it's a good fit for you, okay? And only after that first week is when you should decide to pay. Okay, if you want to continue, you pay at that point and then continue. Otherwise, no issues. We also have flexible payment plans, like you can do 4 installments, and then we can also help set you up with a payment plan like this. Okay, so these are all options. I will leave this slide. These are testimonials from users who have gone through our programs in the past.